Before we get into this week's episode, we want to give love to the people that make this show possible. SeatGeek.com. If you're heading to concerts in Saratoga, in Syracuse, wherever you are up in the Northeast, if you want to find those tickets, your spot is SeatGeek.com, and we've got an offer for you. How about this? Your first purchase with SeatGeek.com, with any ticket purchase over $50, you get $20 off by using the promo code GOZ. G-O-Z. Promo code GOZ, $20 off your first purchase from SeatGeek.com with any tickets over $50. That's right. If you're buying tickets for you and 3 of your friends, it's over $50, $20 off with SeatGeek.com. Our favorite spot, again, concerts, sporting events, and more across the capital region, upstate New York, and wherever you are listening. SeatGeek.com, SeatGeek.com, $20 off using the promo code GOZ. G-O-Z. Wedding season is officially here. The summer is underway. I'm a day away from my wedding anniversary, and I know all about the wedding anniversary, the engagement, the proposal, all the things that happen because of my friends over at Lilly and David Fine Jewelers, located at the shops of Wilton off of Route 50. Family owned and operated business. If you're looking to make that big purchase in your life and propose this summer, you buy the engagement ring at Lilly and David Fine Jewelers. Trust me, I know. 5 years ago, I love saying it. It reminds me of when my anniversary is and all the good things that come after that. That I stopped in a Lilly and David Fine Jewelers. They walked me through the process to find the ring that not only fit my budget, but also the ring that she is continuing to get compliments on to this day. From girlfriend to fiance to wife, Lilly and David Fine Jewelers will help you make that big purchase. Now, if you've already gotten engaged, if you're already married, it doesn't mean that all of a sudden, guys, you can step back a little bit. Whether it's that gift coming up to celebrate that anniversary, a birthday, holidays, and more, Alyssa, David, the crew there at Lilly and David Fine Jewelers will help you find exactly what she's looking for. Bring her in as well. Check out the selection of styles, what fits her fashion, and more. Lilly and David Fine Jewelers wants to help you. Check them out on Facebook as well, where they're always showing some of their new jewelry that's arriving in store. The selection is great. I got to see the location. You're going to love it. It's Lilly and David Fine Jewelers, family-owned and operated business. And when you stop in, tell them you heard about Goz's story from right here on Goz on the Go. This summer, maybe you've been planning for that big vacation, but the prices, whether it's gas, whether it's groceries, everything is going higher and higher with prices. You've got to find ways to save cash this summer. Our guy, Jared Lozier, Northeastern Insurance. One text, one call, one email. Just ask him, hey, Jared, can I get a quote? Can I check out my policy, whether it be my home, my car, my small business, things that you have insurance policies on that you want to make sure that you can just save a few dollars this year. All it takes is one email, JAREDL@nemail.com. JAREDL@nemail.com. A guy we'd love to hang out with. Can't wait for Sunday, July 10th. I'm sure Jared will be out there at the Hideaway when we're enjoying the wide world of sports competition up at Saratoga Lake Golf Club. Going to be a great time up there. And Jared will be there. We always say, if you save him in person, big guy, bald, red beard, that's the guy who's going to save you some cash at Northeastern Insurance. Jared Lozier. Give him a call today, 518-956-3753. 518-956-3753. Text him, can you save me money? Hear about Goz talking to you about all the time on the podcast. Are you the guy who can help me save some cash? Jared Lozier, Northeastern Insurance. One more time for that number, 518-956-3753. Save it in your phone. Guy who can save me money. Groceries too expensive. Maybe this guy's the one who can save me some cash. His name is Jared Lozier. He works for Northeastern Insurance. We love him. We're so proud to have him as a part of Gozilla Media. And now, on to this week's episode of Goz on the Go. Let's lead off with college football realignment for conferences and how I feel about. Let's hear how Heisman Boy feels about college football, the storyline, maybe one of his favorite ones he gets until late August rolls around. I feel so different about this story than maybe most college football fans do and most people who follow the sport do. And maybe because this is my bias towards Syracuse football. I'm just speaking as a Syracuse football fan. That is the team I root for the hardest. I love Syracuse basketball, but there's something different about Syracuse football. Being a season ticket holder, going to the games, the tailgate and everything. That is my top team. The number one team that I love is Syracuse football. And Syracuse basketball is close. So I've gone through this as a Syracuse fan. I've watched Syracuse, who was known as a Big East school, battling against the likes of Georgetown and St. John's and Villanova, and feel nostalgic about the old Big East battles with Georgetown and St. John's and the squads you remember that made Big East basketball so much fun. So that ended. Now, the Georgetown rivalry almost still happens that second weekend in December. That same Saturday is the Heisman Trophy presentation and the Army-Navy game, and Syracuse and Georgetown is always on that same weekend, that Saturday. So that rivalry is still there, but if you're a younger Syracuse fan, it just feels like a non-conference game. It feels forced on you, which is really the core of this strange feeling about conferences in football. The older sports fan, 60s, 50s, maybe even late 40s, remembers those games as a kid. When you played Pitt versus West Virginia, when you had those West Coast schools battling it out, you remember the rivalries more so than anything else because there's a chance that might have been the only game you're able to attend the entire season. So when you felt the big game atmosphere, you saw, okay, this is going to happen every single year. I can't wait to hate these guys. That's what makes football so much fun, the rivalries. And sports in general, whether it's high school basketball or whatever it is. Like the rivalry of the crosstown feels great to beat that team. But when it stops happening, you can still have rivalries, but the game itself doesn't feel as important. It's a non-conference game. Think about Michigan-Ohio State this past season. Michigan-Ohio State decided who was going to play for the Big Ten championship. Think about games in the past like Miami and Florida State. How much would that affect the ACC finish? You can go up and down the list: SEC football, Alabama, and Auburn. Not just the rivalry, but who potentially could play for a national championship. That's what's happened within conferences, that if you're a really good program and you're a rival, those things matter. Those things happen. But notice how I didn't mention Miami and Florida, SEC versus ACC. Does that have that same type of hype around it like it used to? Not when these teams are battling for conference supremacy and who could play for a national championship and not a mythical number one anymore. Well, swinging back to Syracuse football, who's Syracuse football's rival? Is it West Virginia because of the past and the great games against them? Well, West Virginia's rival is Pittsburgh, the backyard brawl. I mentioned them earlier. Is it Virginia Tech? No, you probably think about Virginia. Is it UConn? Is it Rutgers? Rutgers stunk for a bunch of decades. So you don't really feel like you have a football rival, and I just listed off a handful of basketball rivals. That's the future here for college football and realignment. Yeah, it's going to suck for some of those student athletes to take longer road trips. And by suck, I mean get a really nice flight and hang out and probably really nice hotel. And maybe I'm just being a little biased here for the football and basketball players. Some softball and baseball players might not have it as nice, but they're going to travel the country in their early 20s and late teens. Life could be worse. For the fans, yeah, that road trip's not going to happen. But if I'm watching USC versus Michigan, that's kind of awesome, isn't it? If I get UCLA versus Nebraska, what the hell? But I'm fascinated by it. And if we start getting these teams in the Pac-12, like Arizona State versus Baylor, what's going to be 70-63 as a final, I'm still going to be entertained as a college football fan. Now, how they'll do the games and more. Here's another thing they could do. Yeah, I just thought about this from talking with you. Maybe we can eliminate those awful non-conference games. Maybe we don't need Alabama to play Samford anymore. Maybe we don't need UCLA to run up the score against the UC Santa Barbara Gauchos if they even have a football team. Hey, if I get better games from week 1 to week 14, I'm in for that as a college football fan because I've been watching on TV. The TV product is going to be great. You can see why the TV rights are really controlling this. And that's my favorite. The laugh out loud funny part about it is when the ESPN analyst has to get out there and say, can you believe this is happening, that the SEC is trying to expand? Yes, you guys did it. You guys added Texas and Oklahoma. You're the reasons behind it. The Fox college football analyst gets out there. Can you believe that the Big Ten's expanding? Yes, you guys did it. You're the reason why USC and UCLA are coming. You guys did it. It's all about TV rights. I've gone through it. So maybe I'm not callous to this, but it won't be that bad. Trust me. It's going to be okay. We go from something I love, college football talk and the big games and the stars and the cities and everything else and the future of the sport and how it actually might be better, if you think about it, and we shift to the NBA. A sport that, when I was a kid, was my favorite sport. Like when I was 7, 8, 9 years old, we do that intro, right? We're getting there with Gons. What did you want to be as a kid when you grew up 6, 7, 8 years old? My first love was the NBA before football because I grew up in the late 90s and all my friends were in Michael Jordan gear and I was a Charles Barkley fan because the Rockets, I was one of the smart kids that knew like the Rockets actually won the championships between the Bulls and they're going to have Olajuwon and Drexler and Barkley. They could do it again. They didn't, but I was a Rockets fan. And it was cool to root for those superstars and see those guys battle it out in the playoffs and everything else. And maybe it was the kid in me. Maybe I was too naive to understand that there was more egos and contracts and more. But I really liked the NBA. And I'm trying to think back in the history of my life as a sports fan that I've found the NBA less enjoyable. Truly. Look, there are some great players in the NBA, like Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Kyrie. Like, two of those guys I just mentioned, right? Durant and Kyrie we're going to sit on here in a second, but I wish we'd always talked about the performance on the court and the legacy they'd put out there. I know we don't have to fatigue you with another who's the GOAT conversation. Those can only go so far before you feel like you just want to bang your head against the wall. But the superstars controlling the league, there's one part of me that thinks, okay, it's great because you've never seen this in the history of professional sports. And there's another part of it where it's too much. It's a weird comparison, but I think you're going to kind of understand what I'm talking about here. Remember that movie Lord of the Flies? Where like the kids are on the island and they take over and they just have like total control and people start killing each other and it's just weird. Sometimes I feel like there's a little bit of Lord of the Flies, not so much Piggy getting a rock thrown on his head, but that you've now given people so much power that they're abusing the power. That Kevin Durant can sign a 4-year, $196 million contract and say, nah, I'm good. That Kevin Durant cannot play a first season, play when he kind of feels like in year 2 and year 3, pick his teammate, pick his coach, and then at the end be like, I'm good. Yeah, I didn't really like it here anyway. Like Kyrie can just take games off because he doesn't feel like playing. Like Jimmy Butler, I know it helped the Heat get to the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference Finals. Let's act like Jimmy Butler didn't do this stuff. Where the hell's Kawhi Leonard? Like, where'd he go? Kawhi Leonard forced himself out of San Antonio. Then he was traded to Toronto, wins the championship, and I don't know, like, what planet he's on for the Clippers. Just Ben Simmons? I like Zion. You get the point. Like, is this the NBA you want to root for? It found, back in the late 90s, guys to be likable or easier to root for. Maybe it's the passion of the game. And I'm not talking about, like, 90s. I know this always goes to the argument, like, the Pistons and Jordan. I'm not talking about, like, the X's and O's. I'm talking about the actual, like, marketability of the sport. From Bird and Magic, Jordan, and Barkley and more. Like, do you want to go out in public and say I'm a Durant fan? Or I'm a Kyrie fan for the ways these guys do? Or a Ben Simmons fan? Hell, a Zion fan. That's harder to, like, stick your chest down a little bit and wear the jersey and be like, that's my guy. Yeah, sitting on the bench right there, eating a beignet, that's my guy. Like, no. Fans want to root for guys who put out the effort and want to be there and aren't going to quit on the team. Like, these sound like very cliche things like a little league coach would say, but it's all true. The fact that a lot of fans will never reach that level of even the college level, this is what they want to root for. They want to be proud to see that city on their chest, not that, I don't like you guys. I don't like the city anymore. For a long time, like the early 2010s, the LeBron, the decision, I was into it. It was cool. Like, wow, NBA guys are picking their own spot. They're the bad guys. They're the villains. Can somebody beat the Heat? Is this going to be the great dynasty? You could sell me on that stuff 12 years ago. This has run its course. There's too much abuse of power. I'm waiting for the owner or the governor. Somebody just be like, nah, not trading you. You can sit on the bench. Like, I wish Ben Simmons just sat forever. What if this new governor for the Brooklyn Nets says, nah, I'm good. Like Kevin Durant, if you just don't want to play, we're good. That's what I like to see next. That standoff. Probably won't get it. I'm up for the NBA, having fun trades and everything else, but not this type of way because it makes it so much harder to root for the stars in the league. It happened. It happened. The Cleveland Browns have traded Baker Mayfield to the Carolina Panthers for a 5th-round draft pick. So this trade had been rumored for how long? January? February? Baker Mayfield made it very clear he wanted to be done with Cleveland. And Cleveland made it pretty clear that they'd moved on from Baker Mayfield after they gave Deshaun Watson like $1 billion, even though he might be facing suspension. So it was pretty much done. Now, Cleveland, realizing that Deshaun Watson may or may not, if this tape he'd be suspended, needed a backup quarterback. And that's where that intrigue came for me. hey Baker, we're not really quite sure how long Deshaun's gonna be suspended, so you don't mind just stepping in, right? Baker Mayfield, that swagger. I wish I could have heard if that even went down like that. I wish I could have like seen them test Baker Mayfield with the ego that he has and be like, nah, I'm good. I will never be here again. And here's the thing about Baker, right? Like we can discuss whether or not he's overrated or underrated. He had a no doubt, no argument, one of the great rookie seasons in the history of the NFL. Statistically, it's him, Matt Ryan, and Cam Newton are right there as like the three greatest rookie seasons ever. He gets Cleveland to the playoffs for the first time, since 20 years, basically. And he goes out and helps Cleveland win a playoff game. So gets to the playoffs, wins the playoff game, plays hurt his final season, and he became the bad guy. You know, if Baker Mayfield and Odell Beckham Jr. want to believe this hype that like it's the city of Cleveland, they're too negative, they don't want to win. I can feel it. Like I get it. Like it is a strong sports town, Cleveland, but they are rough on the Browns. You're starting to find out why some players don't want to be there because it seems like they're never happy. Buffalo was like this for a while, by the way. Like the Bills fan was very negative until Josh Allen and this team started to win. And sometimes there's still some negativity there. There's a lot of markets that are like that. Even when Boston was like this for a while. Like Red Sox fan, it wasn't even happy. When all of a sudden the curse ended, most were happy. 95% were happy. But like post-curse, remember Tito Francona ran out? Cub fan, Madden ran out. Yeah. So the legacy of Baker Mayfield and what he can do for Carolina. First, he should be recognized as the best quarterback Cleveland's had in the last 25 years. Whether he'll be cheered, whether he'll go back 10, 15 years from now, that's a whole different discussion. But he has the potential to be really good in Carolina. Because that's what happens here, right? Like we remember him playing injured and just assume that's the player that he is. If this was Madden, he was at like, let's say an 80 rating, he got hurt, he's playing him at 66, and you're like, why isn't he as good? Because he's hurt. He played through it. What would have happened if Baker Mayfield just sat? Like, would have Cleveland traded him anyways? Would it even have mattered? I wonder how often he thinks about that conversation. Did it even matter played? So now he's healthy. It's a labrum. It's a left labrum, by the way, not his throwing arm. Can he beat out Sam Darnold? Well, he doesn't know the offense yet. He basically hasn't even signed anything yet. But if you match up resume versus resume, Baker Mayfield's been better than Sam Darnold. He has. Sam Darnold was the pick that everyone thought was going to be the number one pick to Cleveland. And sure enough, here these two quarterbacks are now battling one another for a spot years later. God, 2018 doesn't seem that far away, and here we are. Darnold hasn't done anything in his pro career so far. He's had two different opportunities. You can't blame it all on the Jets. Not going to blame it on Carolina. You can run through how many different coordinators and coaches he's had, but he had a few really good games at USC. He had the legendary Rose Bowl against Penn State. He had that stretch when he was a true sophomore and everyone thought he's the greatest prospect of all time, and Colin Cowherd started to wet his pants over Sam Darnold. He hasn't been good since. So here's what I love about Carolina, and a Buccaneer fan, this hurts a little bit. Both these guys are pissed off. When Sam Darnold was his best is when he came off the bench for USC. Remember that. Darnold was not the starter that season. He came off the bench, and he balled. When was Baker Mayfield the best? Walk on, scrappy, pissed off. Yeah. If you're a Panther fan and you just gave up a 5th round pick for Baker Mayfield and Matt Rule knows his coaching career in the NFL is on the way, possibly out. Oh, Carolina's so interesting. Atlanta's got a new quarterback. New Orleans doesn't know what they're doing. Carolina, for me, as a Buccaneer fan, is the biggest threat in the NFC South and a potential playoff team this season. Matt Rule and those guys can figure it out. Christian McCaffrey can stay healthy. This is a huge trade for Carolina. And I would take Baker over Darnold. I'll give you Baker Mayfield over 9.5 starts for the Panthers this season because he beats out Darnold and shows off what he can do. Look out for Baker Mayfield in the future. By the way, I hope he doesn't sign with Carolina after the season because I don't want to piss off Baker Mayfield in my division against my favorite team for the future. These two hurt me a little bit with these storylines because they're both things I really like, but I have to have that honest perspective on this here on Guys on the Go. Let's start with the hot dog eating contest. I'm not going to give you 5 minutes on the hot dog. I'm not going to break down a Chestnut. Like, I'm not going to the X's and O's. I'm just going to say this. One, him taking down the protester was awesome. Like, it stood out. I'll remember that year Joey Chestnut put the protester down? That made 2022 stand out. Chestnut wins again, all that stuff. But didn't it feel strange? Like, not as fun as it was in the past? Now, I don't look. I'm not taking a shot at Joey Chestnut. I'm not even saying like I'm bitter because he didn't answer our call. Although that would be hysterical. But like, oh, Chestnut didn't answer Gaz's call. Now he hates the hot dog eating contest. No, no, no. That is not it. Chestnut going up there with the boot on, the cast, eating the hot dogs. We've seen it before. Like it feels like it needed a little bit something different. Maybe that was enough. Like maybe that's what I remember it by. But maybe it was George Shea. George Shea is the legend, the guy who does the intros, all that stuff. If you go back and watch the video, he's got like a little tremor going. And I don't know what was going on. Maybe Shea's not in the best health, but you don't realize how important he is to the whole hot dog eating contest until he's a little bit off his game. You don't realize how impressive Joey Chestnut is until you see something get distracted out there. Maybe that's what we needed. Just a little bit something different in the hot dog eating contest. Oh, and by the way, it wasn't on ESPN. It was on ESPN News. Wimbledon bumped it this year. I hope Joey Chestnut never loses. I hope he's 80 years old pounding down hot dogs and loving America and everything else. We just have to admit it felt a lot different than any other year for that hot dog eating contest. If you're a fan of the New York Yankees or the Boston Red Sox, you're probably going to be like, guys, you're just getting a little jealous here again. First, you're mad at Joey Chestnut not calling it, and now you're mad at this one. No, no, no. It's a weird theme on this week's Guys in the Go, right? Like, I have grudges to go after. I'm going to get these people. No, that is not the case here. This situation involves the American League East. My Baltimore Orioles are actually finally somewhat not embarrassing at 39 and 44 and be like, oh, they're not embarrassing because they're only 5 games below 500 and 20 games back in first place. Not so much those stats, but I'm talking about the American League in general. Again, Yankee and Red Sox fan in particular. Do you guys want to admit the league stinks? Like, does the American League actually stink? Because we can take this all the way back to 2016, maybe even, 2016 is probably a fair way to do it, where you can go back in May of those years and look at the standings, June 2, and say, okay, here's the playoff teams. Here's the division winners. Here's the wild card. Division winners, wild card. You can do that from like June of 2016 to July of 2022 and not really have a problem picking the winners of those playoff spots anymore. Now, I say not a problem because usually Oakland would always charge at the end. Oakland is not coming back this year. They stink. They should be moved. My guy Sean Martin, I'm sure, is not happy about it. Go listen to Pugsley's Pit. He'll give you all you want about the Oakland A's, that situation out there. That poor fan base getting trashed. But the American League's not good. Think about this. There's now the expanded wild card. There's 6 teams that are going to go to the playoffs this season. The whole call out of the division. It's cool. I'm waiting for that. I actually think it's going to be a really cool setup how ESPN, MLB Network, how those guys might come together and do this. The new exciting way for the postseason. But as of right now, only 6 teams are above 500. It's those 4 teams in the American League East, the Twins and the Astros. So that's it. Like that argument right there. Okay. July 7th. If I told you the 6 playoff teams in the American League were the Yankees, Rays, Blue Jays, Red Sox, Twins, and Astros, who would you argue is going to catch them? Cleveland? They're going to catch? No. Baltimore? Seattle? I don't feel good about any of those teams. So yeah, that's already locked in right there. We have to continue to understand that some teams flat out want to go out and get it, and some teams are going to rebuild. You could argue the White Sox have been the most disappointing team in the AL Central because they had so much talent, but they just can't find ways to win like they used to. Angels? I guess we have to do that storyline again with Ohtani and Trout. What was it, just a few months ago where it felt like this is finally the season? They finally did it, and then Madden and like the double-digit losing streak gets fired, all that stuff. So maybe it's always the Angels. But if baseball wants to continue to stay relevant here, besides have the Yankees play on July 4th and put on national games. My guy, Zach By, shout out to that. He is totally right on this. Maybe we have to continue to find reasons to have these teams be competitive in the summer. Is 6 enough? Feels like it is. It feels like it's better than the 1-game wild card that was just a TV grab. It was never 2011. It still never did it. Is it 8? Does half the league have to be in it? Do you just have to tell teams to be more competitive? I don't think this has completely solved the problem. That if you've only got 6 out of your 15 teams above 500, you already have figured out the playoff scenarios on July 8th? Why are we watching? What are we waiting for? The NFL playoffs, we had no clue who the hell was getting in. And when the playoffs kicked off, it was truly anybody's game. How many, probably few, had the Bengals having a lead in the Super Bowl? How about the NBA? Yeah, the Golden State Warriors were there. They weren't the top seed. Boston? They had to get by Philly and Miami, the other competitors in the East. The NHL, yeah. Avalanche and Lightning, We'll give you that one. Okay. But that's rare. The NHL playoffs continue to have the top teams, the most talented teams in there, because that's what makes the NHL. Now, maybe you're going to say that the Yankees are going to be tested against the Rays, Red Sox, or Blue Jays when you get a divisional foe to face the top team. That's entertaining. I'll tip my cap to that. I could definitely get with that. But I just want the fan bases of those teams to admit that you guys are beating up some bad teams. Like, the American League is not good. You flip it over to the National League, you've got the Mets, you've got the defending World Series champions and the Braves. Philadelphia has been far better without Girardi. Miami, somehow, some way, man, is always in the mix for a wild card spot. Milwaukee is so thirsty, and they're hungry for that championship. They've been so competitive the last decade. The Dodgers, the Padres, the Giants, the Cardinals. That is some competition in the National League. Looks like the NL might smash the AL in the wild card this year. Looks like the American League should get smashed by the National League in an all-star game if you actually had it set up like that. Red Sox and Yankee fans admit it. The league stinks. Before we get into the fight game, the professional wrestling, the boxing, all that great news, we want to tell you about two more of our favorite people, some of our people that make this show possible. Johnstone Supply in Troy. Summer is here, and you can feel the heat already here in upstate New York. You can feel the days getting a little bit warmer and warmer, and maybe you want to spend some time inside. If you want to stay cool all summer long indoors, the place for you to call is Johnstone Supply in Troy. Ask the team at Johnstone Supply in Troy about their high-efficiency central AC systems and the ductless mini splits. Goodman, Fujitsu, Westinghouse, and all are in stock and at great prices for you. And you need someone to help install that new system? Johnstone Supply in Troy can help you with that too. Give our guy Tom a call. Kev, James, Bird, whoever you need to have you swing by. We love the crew at Johnstone Supply in Troy. Always sponsors from day one with us here on Gozilla Media. We love showing these guys some love. They can help you put in that AC unit and help find that cooler place for you and your family and your friends this summer. To stay cool all summer long, call Johnstone Supply in Troy at 518-272-5922. 518-272-5922, or visit them on 6th Avenue in Troy, or check them out at johnstonesupply.com. Stay cool this summer. Johnstone Supply in Troy. And we want to give love to our friends at Mohawk Honda in Glenville, New York. The team at Mohawk Honda can find exactly what you're looking for this summer across the lot. I know you've heard it. New vehicle thanks to Mohawk Honda. Now you can have that same type of bragging right for yourself just by checking out the staff there at Mohawk Honda in Glenville. They're going to search not just their lot, how about the entire Eastern Seaboard just for you? That's the commitment they have for you at Mohawk Honda. The real opportunity for you is right now this summer with 2023 vehicles on the way. Now's the time to sell your vehicle, trade in your vehicle. Think about this. Mohawk Honda buys your car. And in some cases, this summer, you might be able to sell your vehicle to Mohawk Honda for more than you originally paid for it. The supply chain is still facing challenges, which creates a selling opportunity for you. Wherever you're listening across upstate New York, it is worth the drop to make that cash and put it in your pocket, and Mohawk Honda wants to help you do it. As always, the team at Mohawk Honda wants to help you buy, sell, make that experience so easy for you. You know the names: Cam McKenna, Brian McKenna, Travis Landry, shout out to him, the VIP man, Morales. Everybody can help you do exactly what you need. Find money and get a great ride for the summer road trips on the way. Shout out to Greg Johnson as well, always killing it over at Mohawk Honda. We appreciate his love as always. Mohawk Honda, Glenville, New York, Freeman's Bridge Road. They want to buy your car. And as always, Mohawk Honda always goes out of their way to please you. Is Jake Paul a lot cooler than I realize? Like, I feel like I'm finally buying into the Jake Paul thing. I know there's like a few weeks when boxing's talked about and the fight games talked about, Paul can find his way into the conversation, both Logan and Jake. Logan, now a part of the WWE. Jake's still doing his boxing thing. He was supposed to fight the younger brother of Tyson Fury, Tommy Fury, at Madison Square Garden on that first weekend in August. And I saw that getting hyped up. I'm like, I think I'm going to watch. Like, I think Paul's done it this time. I think he's actually going to get me to cough up some money and watch this thing. I actually wanted to go for my CBS 6 sports game. Like, I wonder if they're going to clear me to go to Madison Square Garden and cover this fight. You know me, the fight game, I love it. And now Fury pulls out for conflicting reports. Some reports suggest that it's a travel issue and he was having entry denying situations from London for a press conference type of the fight. If you ask Jake Paul, it's because he's scared. He doesn't want to fight him. This is what I love in the boxing world and the fight game, man. Like, we don't know who's telling the truth and who's full of malarkey. Is that a 93Q reference I just pulled out? Man, Syracuse people are going to love that one. That makes you wonder, like, the slow burn for this, make you care about it, make you build the storyline. Look, Paul is another fighter. It's not the bigger name of Fury. I don't even want to go through the guy's name because I don't like. Maybe he'll get jinxed and he won't even step in the fight again too. But the fact that Jake Paul and Logan Paul, is the Gen Zers saying do numbies on social media, is a good enough influence. I could sit here and do another 45 minutes on how the world has changed when it comes to ratings and reflecting interest and why people should look at these numbers digitally in comparison to the fake made up numbers. You want a great take on this? Check out Mike Ryan for the Dan Le Batard Show, where he talks about Neil Rogers and the late Hank Goldberg, of how they cared so much about the diary system until real numbers, not fake ones, came out and they realized, oh, maybe you're not as popular as we thought, Rogers and Goldberg, and vice versa for people who can actually back it up and show off what they can do. So yeah, I was more hyped up for this Paul Fury fight than I even realized, and I'm even more hyped up for it for the future. I want to see it happen. It's my favorite boxing storyline for the rest of 2022, because Tyson Fury is probably going to the WWE along with the other Paul. So yeah, I think boxing needed that one. And by the way, the UFC needed something too. I'm not even going to put the graphic up for the UFC. I'm leaving the picture of Paul up here, hoping some Gen Zers see it. What the hell happened to UFC 276? Levac was all fired up for it. It's like UFC fans. It's fight week. It's Vegas. It's Adesanya in the main event. Stunk. Terrible. I want to see a big knockout, a big finish, a new star emerge, all this stuff that you hope from fight week in Vegas. Not what Dana White expected. Not what Dana White hoped. WWE's Money in the Bank was okay. Like, it could have been better, and a cool finish. You've got SummerSlam in 4 weeks, a rare SummerSlam July edition. Always that final weekend, it felt like, in August for tradition. But you've got this big UK show coming up in that first Saturday in September that's going to be absolutely insane. So that schedule gets juggled around a little bit. You've got in the main events, we'll do the co-main events here, the first and opening match. By the way, let's add Roman Reigns not on the card. You've combined the WWE Championship, the World Heavyweight Championship, SmackDown, Raw, whatever they're calling it now. Like, Reigns has both, and he's not on the card. Okay, he's back for SummerSlam, where he gets Lesnar. Okay. Well, let's talk about Theory and Liv Morgan. First, for Liv Morgan, what an awesome moment. Like, they could even let that go a little bit longer, because Liv Morgan, again, we just talked about one of the Pauls, right? Pages like this too. Social media adores Liv Morgan. And I wonder if that's finally the reason why the WWE pushed it through and said, you know what? We can see the numbers on Liv Morgan. Let's just get her a run. Let's give her the title. And she is so different. Like, so many people play the characters, the badass, the queen, like the boss. We get it. We've done it. Liv Morgan seems so authentic and so real. Constantly crying when she's in the ring. If you go back and watch her entrance, I knew from the moment she came to the ring she was going to win. I could see it on her face. I could feel it. I mean, she's going to win, because she couldn't hold it in. She was told she was going to win, and the cash in on Ronda Rousey. Some people look at that and be like, why? She can't beat Ronda. And that's the reason you do the cash in. Why Nikki ASH did the cash in on Charlotte Flair months ago. Sometimes that's the reason you have the cash in, to protect your champions and to make them not look weak if they actually get pinned 1, 2, 3, and to have them lose the Money in the Bank winner. Loved it. The only thing I would have probably said about Liv Morgan is I would have told her story a little bit, but Cole and Graves and Saxon did everything to push that on commentary to hype her up a little bit. Curious to see what her run's going to be like. Is she going to have that strap for SummerSlam and the big UK show? Is somebody coming back? Interesting things to happen with Liv Morgan, but hopefully the fans really embrace her and go from there. Rooting for her. Interesting with Theory, too. Austin Theory, the future of the WWE. Is he the next Randy Orton or John Cena? Is he going to wrestle one of those guys at a big show coming up? Are they going to put him over and get beat by the young stud who just lost the U.S. title to Bobby Lashley? It's a cool idea to have the Money in the Bank briefcase around a young superstar who can cash in whenever he wants. It feels like a little bit like Drew McIntyre, where he's the chosen one. He's been like that. If you're an NXT fan, it didn't feel like that when he was with Gargano and The Way and Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae. But here he is, getting pushed. If he's the next star they want to push, why not give him the ultimate way to get pushed with the Money in the Bank briefcase, and at some point potentially cashing in on somebody. I thought it was a pretty good pay-per-view. We've got 2 new stars. Find out what they can do in the future. All right, that's this week's Guys on the Go. It was going to be tough to top last week's show. Get packed for that final week in June. July still holding steady. Appreciate you listening. Make sure to leave a comment, review, like, subscribe, all that stuff. It's really appreciated. And go out to support our sponsors. I love telling people that this summer. With everyone's schedule so different, it's the best thing you can do is support our people that make this show possible. Love talking to you. Talk again next week.